Hi, and welcome to the ResellerClub Summit. Today I spoke about the Microsoft opportunities on hosting solutions by Microsoft and how you as a hoster or a reseller can leverage all of this in your organization or for your customers and partners. We talked about a lot of things today. We talked about the infrastructure services and we talked about the Microsoft solutions that customers, partners can leverage. We talked about some of the solutions like the web hosting. We talked about the VM hosting where customers can build a data center and they can even put that entire data center stack, that is the infrastructure, in the hoster's infrastructure or the hoster's premise. So they don't need to worry about managing that. Then we talk about some of the features in the web hosting, something like how they can use Windows Azure to build the websites, how they can use the web platform installer to build up the websites in the virtual machine, which is hosted or which are hosted by the hosting provider or the reseller in his premise, which customer can just go and buy. We talked about the database as well. They can choose a database on-premise or they can put a database in the cloud in Windows Azure or in the hoster's premise as well. Lastly, we talked about some of the desktop hosting solution and we talked about the Office 365. So using the VDI kind of a solution or the virtual desktop infrastructure, you can choose to host desktops in the data center which are connected by the clients or the clients can connect it anytime. And lastly, we talked about some of the kind of your productivity applications like Exchange, Link and SharePoint, which is completely hosted package in the cloud, which clients can use and the hosters can get a lot of benefit from it. And to sum up in the end, we talked about the Microsoft Partner Network. So you can visit a Microsoft Partner Network to find more about this Microsoft hosting solutions. And lastly, you can visit microsoft.com/hosting to find more about these hosting offerings from Microsoft for all our customers. And for anything else, you can just connect back to me anytime. And thank you very much. I have about 1 hour to talk about that what we have from Microsoft to offer in terms of the hosting solutions. Now, when we talk about the hosting and all, over the time, we have been talking about the web hosting where you can probably put your website on a web server and someone probably use it and all. But when we talk about this shift towards the cloud and all, we see a lot of things are getting changed. Something that we could not do in the past few years, we can do it like now do rapidly with the term called as the cloud computing and all. So in my next 1 hour, I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that we have at Microsoft have to offer to you. And there are a lot of programs available. And I'll make sure that the session is not at all a completely PowerPoint-based boring stuff. I will try to show as many as demo I have so that you get a clear connect that what I wanted to convey exactly to you. My focus, however, from the today's session will be completely about this infrastructure-based hosting, what it means. So as simple as that, when I say the infrastructure, it means my servers and the resources. And when I say the resources, in terms of this cloud computing, whether it's an on-premise for specific XYZ customer, or in the cloud, which sometimes we call it as a public cloud, we talk about putting the data, putting your servers or putting your websites, applications in someone else's premise. That's what the hosters offer. So I will make sure to cover some of the scenarios in terms of the demos that probably connect you and in terms of give you some information. Before I do that, let me play a quick video. It's about a minute or so to give you what are some of the opportunities. I hope the audio is working. Thank you. So, when I talk about this particular session, I have this quick agenda. I will talk about some of the growth opportunities in the cloud where you can think of different solutions. And of course, I will be asking some questions to you, so I'll get an idea about what sort of audience we have, how many of you are the hosters, IT professionals, and accordingly, I will cover up my content. Sorry about that. Then we'll talk about some of the service provider hosting opportunities. What are different areas where you can probably add some value to the customers in terms of the infrastructure as a hosting or a platform or in terms of the software as a service as well. And eventually what we will talk about is some of the programs. We have a program called as Microsoft Partner Network where you can sign up as a partner and then probably you can offer the same services to the customers that we are actually offering to the customers directly. At the same time, as you are all aware, Microsoft is heavily depending upon the partner ecosystem to get all of the value to the end users or the customers. Now, this is what we already seen that some of the opportunities we have in terms of next few years, and that's based upon the research done by Forrester. The video that I've just shown you, the 241 billion by 2020, is based upon the report by Forrester called as the Sizing the Cloud. So you can go, take a look at it in detail. And some of the things that we will see eventually is that we have a huge SMB market across where we can see a lot of opportunities where we can talk about some of the options where how they can think about moving to the cloud, how their customers can think about moving to these new opportunities. And when we see some of the options in terms of how many, some of the SMBs worldwide based upon the survey that we did with the third party agency, we found that about 30% people pay for the cloud services, 48% are expecting to buy some sort of cloud services, maybe application, maybe some sort of services, maybe infrastructure in the next few years. And effectively, the challenge that we see is that most of them are not aware about which is the right technology for me. Should I think about the application? Should I think about the service? Should I think about the infrastructure? What is suitable for me and for my customer is something that we have a lot of market to look forward. Now, when you talk about opportunities with Microsoft, Microsoft has been there in the software development for a very long time. As you're all aware, we are in the desktop market, we are in the server market, and we are even in the application market. So when we were building this server operating system, we thought, okay, what can we do with this release of Windows Server 2012? Of course, Windows Server 2008 R2 with SP1 provided virtualization. I'm not sure how many of you are aware about Hyper-V, but we are like getting really huge momentum from the customers about deploying Hyper-V as the first class citizen as an hypervisor for the data centers. And with 2012, we have had huge amount of features that we introduced that you can even find these features probably not available in our competitors as well. That is what the commitments that we have towards our customers. And it's all from the feedback that you as a provider, you as a customer, you as an end user have provided to Microsoft that this is what we want. These are some of the areas that we have to improve upon. So here are some of the opportunities that we have in terms of near future, something about services moving towards cloud. Cloud is a first class priority for us. 2 days back in a build conference, we unveiled a lot of new announcements that we made to Windows Azure. We are moving towards the store concept, something that probably the hosters can offer to their customers, their organizations. One of the things I want to cover up today is something called as a private cloud. Now, when we talk about the private cloud, the idea of private cloud is that the customer will build some sort of solution into his premise, which will give them all the cloud attributes, that is elasticity, pay-per-use, self-service, pooled resources and all. But the challenge is that customer probably would come to you and say that, you know what, I don't want to manage all of the servers, all of the infrastructures on my own. Can any hoster help me out? Do we have any service provider who will probably keep the servers in his premise and run that workload for me? So I don't have to worry about the management, patching and all of the hassles on my own, in my own premise. So the beauty is that while public cloud is already available for any customer where hosters can probably help them out put their applications in the cloud, with the private cloud, it's completely customized. The idea is very simple. If I'm running an Active Directory in my environment, of course my users and all of the services can be leveraging that. But again, to manage their Active Directory, to manage those email services, to manage those virtualized hosts and VMs, it's my headache. But what if I have some options wherein the hosters can probably do that task for me? I don't have to worry about the infrastructure as in on my own premise. That is something what we call as the infrastructure as a service that probably you can think of. So we have a lot of options available. And subsequently, when we talk about all the options, there are some things which are available for the hosters or the partners, something in terms of what they can do with it. And like I said, I'll be focusing more in terms of the infrastructure service provider scenarios, where I will talk about how as an infrastructure you can provide the services to the customers. So when I say some service provider scenarios, what could be them? One is the VM hosting. How many of you hosters provide virtual machines to your customers? Okay, first question, how many of you are the hosters? Huge, right? And how many of you deliver applications to the customers? Anything, it could be open source, .NET, Java, PHP, completely fine, that's okay. And I assume that over the time you'll probably thinking about, all right, the customers would demand for a virtual machine, and today's model is very simple. I will have an VM, I will provision a VM to them, and I will give it to the customer and he can use it. According to his requirement, we can probably scale up, scale down through some sort of way. And what we've done in this case is the services that I'm covering today are probably focusing upon Windows Server 2012 right now, because most of the providers or most of the hosting partners are still on Windows 2008 R2 SP1 stack. But the 2012 has a lot of opportunities where you as a hoster can provide a lot many richer services to the customers. And when I'm talking about these options or these services, I just do not mean about only Microsoft stack. No, it's not at all. When I talk about these options about the infrastructure, whether it's a virtual machine running Windows 2003 or 2008 or 2008 R2 SP1, I also talk about the open source world. Somebody would probably want a Ubuntu virtual machine, somebody probably want to run a Java application, or let's say PHP application, or a Joomla, or some sort of CRM application. We made sure over the time that Microsoft is working with the open source technologies, and we made sure that the open source is the first class citizen running on our stack as well. I make sure that I will provide some sort of CPU throttling capacity. What it means, if I have any worker process running on my system, I will allot only certain percentage of a CPU to this particular process. It means that no matter how many users, no matter how many kind of attacks that I will be getting on my server, my real-time workload for that specific application will not go beyond that threshold value that you will specify. It's as simple as running some small GUI, make a change, put a percentage, and that's about it. That's it, you're done. So the idea is that more and more workload that you can eventually run on the web server, and effectively you can decide how do you want it. How do you want to balance that out? That is something that you can do. We have introduced something called as the multi-tenancy in Windows Server IIS. So if you have different customers that you can probably put them on the same server, we have introduced some NUMA related enhancements for improved performance and all. That's for something that we will cover in today's session. Then we have SQL. Now database is something that most of the customers are looking forward. So as a part of the infrastructure, SQL plays a major role. Not only you have infrastructure as a service offering that you can probably deploy in your organization when you say building a private cloud, we also make sure that you have a SQL which is available in the cloud. So you have an on-premise SQL database or on the cloud SQL database, and probably your application can be leveraged either of it. Your customers may probably build an application which will be running into their premise, which is a custom line of business application, but probably you are the person who is hosting that database for them in the cloud. So they will be connecting to the database on the fly, or it's other way around. They may be keeping the database in their premise and you are hosting the application for them. Something that is possible with the opportunities we have right now. And the desktop hosting, that is something what we see over the time. VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure, that's a huge opportunity. Many of the companies, many of the customers don't want to manage all of that infrastructure hazards, issues and all, and that's why the idea of the VDI is very compelling. It's like very simple idea, I will have all of my virtual machines keeping up in a data center, wherein I will just do the remote desktop, log in and use it. Someone from the hoster community or some partner will help me host all of my virtual machines, all of my servers, all of my data securely in their premise, and then probably I will be using some sort of a gateway and I will connect to the VM on the fly without needing to worry about any of those issues. And the best part is that VM is completely personalized for me. So even if I get disconnected during working on that VM, or even if I go to some other place, that VM will always be there along with all the data that I want or I use on my daily basis. And then some of the options for application hosting. You have an apps available. So one of the things that probably we talk to the partners is that something that you can leverage Office 365. Office 365 is a concept wherein we have made sure that all of the enterprise workload like Exchange, which is a mail server, SharePoint, which is a collaboration site, and the Link, which is a communication software. We typically used to call it an OCS, Office Communication Server. It's all available as a service. What the customer will have to do is instead of building up all these servers in his premise, just go buy the domain and you can use this as per your requirement. So that's a huge opportunity, something that we are offering to the end users and they can leverage that. And the target customers for that particular set of infrastructures as a service could be, or the service provider could be the SMB market, which is a huge that we have, and even the enterprise market as well. Let's talk about some of these services. So when you talk about the web hosting, I've already talked to you about that some of the announcements that we made. It's not just about Microsoft workload or platform itself. We have a .NET, we have HTML5, we have JavaScript, we have open source, we have PHP and many more type of a workload. One of the things I will start with the demonstration is that how do you deploy all of these kind of a platform or the software real time on an IIS with one click. Typically the world when we had IIS, the idea is very simple. You will probably download some package from the web, let's say PHP, WordPress or something like that. You will configure one by one and there are a lot of manual things to be involved, that download something, configure something, which is a painstaking time frame to deploy any of that. Now all of this workload that you are seeing on the screen, the open source is with one click. I will have a utility called as a web platform installer which is available for free in a production environment that an end user can use or the hosters can use to deploy and configure the server with one click. So let's start with the first demonstration called as web platform installer. So I'm just hoping that my net is working well. So at the very first I will start with this website microsoft.com/web. Now this is a website where you can download the web platform installer. It's a small download that probably you can just keep it with you. So this is my web platform installer launcher. It's about 93K, so it's a small setup. When you launch this particular utility, it will probably show you all the things that you have. So let me just launch this utility. So this is my web platform installer. What it does exactly is very simple thing. In Microsoft, we have all the things kept in a backend. You launch this particular web platform installer and eventually once it gets all the information or the backend listing of all the tools available, it will give you all the information. What are the softwares available for me to install? What is the updated package? Any SDKs, any tools, any new software? So all of the packages from the community are updated over here and the team makes sure that all the software that we are probably making sure that is available is completely updated every now and then. So if it's a new WordPress or if it's a new PHP package, if it's a new Joomla or a new Sugar CRM, it will be updated all along real time. Now I'm hoping that it will take some time I think to probably show me all the listings. So let me do one thing, let me try to log on to my remote environment. So I'm hoping that I should be able to do that quick fast over here. So let me come over here and also check the status over here. It's still taking time. So I think this is the best option that I should do my demo over here on my remote environment. So let's click on this free download. This is how it would look like. Really hope that it should work fast. So that's a web matrix. Sorry? Yeah, one second. I'll just let me open it up. Started. Let's see over here. Just give me a minute. Let me click onto it now and let me just zoom it up so that you can see it quick fast. So this is a link. I'll just click onto it. I'll just say cancel, just maximize and say run. So what I will do is instead of using my local connection, I will do RDP into some other high speed connection and probably run that. So just give me a minute. This is typically the experience would look like. I have what I'm running right now on this machine is Windows Server 2012 instance, which is in my office. I'm just running this server on the fly. So what I'm doing right now is I'm installing this complete web PI actually for the first time on this machine. What I was just trying to show you is on my actual machine, and eventually it will probably start quick fast. Let's see. All of the things that I'm going to cover are over here. So I assume that it should be loading up quick fast over here compared to what we have. So while this is happening, let me also give you the glimpse of what I'm going to cover today. I will be talking about some sort of a way through which you can manage all of your public cloud or private cloud infrastructure from single portal. We have this another product called as System Center 2012. So in short, when we say that Microsoft is building up a data center or a data center offerings for my customers or for the hosters, the idea is very simple. You will have something to do at the base level, which is where your hypervisor comes in a picture and your operating system comes in a picture with all of the basic features like identity management and all. That's what Windows Server 2012 provides at the back end. And on a top of it, we have something called as System Center 2012. This is our data center management software, which gives you an ability to manage all of my physical servers, virtual servers, deployment of an OS, management, patches, monitoring of all the servers and things. So this is quite fast. So as you can see, for the first time when I'm just launching it over here, I will just do a quick zoom. Let me see if the tool will work. This is how it would look like. So all of my Spotlight, the new product, something like I have Windows Phone SDK. We just released the Phone SDK 2 days back, so it's available over here. Webmetrics is a tool for web developers to quickly develop websites and upload it on the production server. And you see the database, its availability. If I click on a products, it will show me all the products that I can think of. So let's say if you want to configure a web server on a Windows server, or if you want to install some additional SDK and all, instead of me manually installing SQL Server from the website and installing, just launch this particular tool called as a Web Platform Installer, and as you can see, it will show me all of the workload in terms of various categories. If you want to do something specific to Windows Azure, if you want to do some deployment in the public cloud where you will put your .NET application or a PHP or a Java application, this tool will configure all of it for you. All you need to do is just select the specific component, click on add or remove based upon what you want to do. And let's see if I want to install this component, PowerShell management, I will do that. And eventually what I will do is I will click on the various tools or any other feature that I want to install, I can do that. So here I have some tools available for my Azure based environment. Subsequently I have database as well. So if I want to even configure, let's say SQL, MySQL, I can do that as well. So I don't have to download a MySQL from their website and configure that. This tool will do it for me on the fly, on the go. And let's say if I want to, let's say, install something like additional framework server, I can do that. Now you would say that, okay, what about the open source stuff that I was talking to you about? So first, if you see, I do have a PHP over here, Python over here, which is completely ready and the latest packages are available. And if I click on applications, this is where you will see the interesting stuff for you. So this is where you have all the interesting stuff like my app framework that I can choose to install, my CMS, my e-commerce applications, my blogs, wikis, and many more. So probably I can give you an example, how do I install WordPress. So I'll just come over here, I will see I have a lot of options. Select WordPress, I will say add, and let me say install. So if you see there are many options available. Once I say install, it will say that the password, so I'll say give a sample password and I will say continue. It says that the SQL is, the MySQL is not installed, so eventually it will have to install that as well. And I will say accept. And as you can see, it will download all the components on its own, download them, configure them, and put it ready on this box. So on this box, which is a remotely hosted virtual server or things like that, even if your hoster gives you a dedicated server, you can just run this tool and it will configure the IIS for you, it will configure MySQL for you, it will configure the WordPress for you, and give you an option to do that quick fast on this particular dedicated server. So this is the tool which I wanted to show you, which is the first demo of my session, called as a Web Platform Installer. A very powerful tool for managing and deploying all those applications on the go, whether you have an infrastructure or in the public cloud or any VM that you have which is connected to the internet. Next up, let's talk about Windows Azure. Windows Azure, like I said, is the option which is the place where the end users or the customers will put their applications in the cloud. So the idea is very simple. If I want to have some application which is using a lot of compute resource, in a day-to-day basis or in certain time frame, I will keep my application, it could be the web application, it could be a .NET application, put it up in the Windows Azure based environment. This is what we call as a platform as a service offering. So the idea is very simple. What Windows Azure does for me is it will allow me to put my applications, and now we also included something called as an infrastructure as a service offering. What it means, I will have a virtual machine running in Windows Azure which will have a unique computer name, unique IP address, which could be part of your domain network. Makes sense for a customer, right? So if he wants to run an Active Directory or a SQL Server or an Exchange in the Windows Azure based environment, he can do that. So it's not just about kind of a stateless VMs, but you also have the stateful VMs as well. And again, the support for your virtual machines is provided. What we also added new in this release is the same experience that you just saw right now of installing, let's say, a WordPress or any blog or any application. We made sure the same way for Azure as well. So it's with few clicks you can just get going and do that. And it's not just about virtual machines or the websites. On Windows Azure you have a big data, a SQL database available on the fly which you can use over there. You can use MySQL, you have a storage, you have a media services option for streaming, encoding, decoding and all these things that you can do in the cloud using all the compute power available in the data center by uploading your specific workload. We have a caching available. So if you have some application which is probably used by global level by various customers and all, you can put a caching at the various country wise or the CDN level, so that even if your customers are roaming across the globe, they will get the consistent experience across the particular application. So the idea of this is very simple. You will have apps, you will have your scalability, fault tolerance and a lot of things that you can do with Windows Azure. Once you build your application, you just put it over there and Azure at the back end takes care of for that, all of your applications. One thing that I want to highlight is that if you have any existing virtual machine that you run locally in your machine, you can upload the same virtual machine in Windows Azure and use that. Because at the back end we use the same VHD file format, same extension, same configuration, and you can also download the same VM that you run on Windows Azure and then you can use it locally. So literally what we call as the transition between public cloud and private cloud is happening right now. So with this, let me talk about these two components right now, Windows Azure IaaS and Azure Websites. So I will probably show you the example and I will show you a couple of demos over here. So first thing, let me just jump over to my Windows Azure based environment. So when I launch my particular Azure portal for the first time, this is how it would look like. So it's completely designed using HTML5. Again, I think the best that I think I can do is just come over here and probably think of doing the demo on this particular machine, assuming that it's quite faster. So I will do with, let's say, windows.azure.com/ I will jump on to my Microsoft credential. What I'm doing right now here is that saying that go to this particular website and it will take my corporate credentials to use, and that's what we introduced with Windows Azure. We have included a federation. So if your customer has got an Active Directory in place, he can use those same credentials to access Windows Azure instead of managing two separate credentials, one for his internal organization, one for his external organization. So as you can see, the machine that I am connected right now, this remote machine, is connected to my corporate network. And I just went to this particular website and it immediately redirected me without asking my credential because I have already logged in, kind of single sign-on scenario. So for the first time I'm logged in, so it gives me information that how do you use this particular tool. So I'll just quickly skip that. Some of the commands and all, how do you use that, and pretty much this is how it would look like. This is my Windows Azure based environment. So let me probably just come over here and just zoom it again for you to show you how it looks like. I have websites, I have virtual machine. There's something called as the mobile services which we newly introduced for customers. So if any customer is wanting to build any application for a PC which is a Windows 8 or a Windows Phone 8, they can leverage these mobile services. So all of the notifications and all can be quickly built for them on the fly. Now my focus in today's session is to talk about something called as virtual machines. So if you see, I do have two virtual machines configured over here. One is my Ubuntu virtual machine and one is my Windows Server 2012 VM. And the way for me to connect to this VM is very easy, quick, fast. If I click on any virtual machine, as you can see over here, I have an option over here to see what can I do with them. So with Windows Server 2012, it's a Windows machine, so I can do remote desktop, right? Yes? So I'll just click on this particular connect option, and it will give me this option that says allow once. I need to disable pop-up. And what it will give me an option is, let me just try that one more time. If I come over here, let's say, sorry, come back to the VM, this VM and say connect. Right, let me just disable the pop-up once and for all. So this portal is completely designed using HTML5 at the backend and all, so there is no Silverlight, there is no plugin at all which has been used over here. So now let me give it a try one more time. I will say connect. It should give me an RDP file. So it's because of some download manager I have configuring. So if you see, this is my RDP file. Just click on open. It will ask my credentials. So this is my RDP connection. If you see, there's a unique DNS name over there. So let me type in my password. Let's try this one, and I'll say OK. What it will try to do right now is to try to connect to this particular virtual machine, and once I am, let's say, connected to this, I should be able to see the desktop of this particular VM that I am running in Windows Azure. Now here's the beauty. If I'm running any application inside of that VM, I have just one click to scale up and scale down that application. So if I want to increase the cores for that VM from 1 core to 4 cores and 8 cores, I can do that with one click even without a downtime. And my application that I probably built in this particular virtual machine will eventually understand that as well. So here is my full-fledged server core machine, my server manager dashboard. This is the new server manager, and we have the exact same thing implemented over there. The new start screen available in Windows Server and all, which is that they say that good for IT professionals. The idea is that we want you to install a server without a GUI. So you will install something called as a server core version and manage it remotely, which I will show the demo in some time. So the idea is, this is my full-fledged virtual machine running with its own computer name and all. I can configure this VM a unique IP address based upon your customer's IP address range. So let's say you have a company and you have an Active Directory, which is your internal corporate network. I can assign the same IP address range to this VM, same computer name, similar range of a computer name to this VM, and even make sure that this VM is part of your corporate network using a VPN. So the way we do it is, because if you see it's a full-fledged server, I can configure that. I can make sure that I'll just come over here and I do have an option that says network. This is a network this network option which will allow me to create a virtual network. I can kind of configure an endpoint from my data center to my local premise, and it will give you some sort of a configuration file that you can use it to put it up on your router. If it's a Cisco router or some other router that you can use, big F5 and all, it will have all of that configuration file which will allow your router at the corporate network to talk to this Windows Azure and have a kind of a site-to-site VPN. The idea is very simple, that whatever you run in Azure is kind of a part of your corporate network. You can use it as a file server, AD server, Exchange, or SQL, which is now available seamlessly. And the beauty is that the same virtual machine that I am talking about, this particular machine, which is running with its own IP address, its own VHD file, I can download this VM as is and use it on premise, which is the beauty. One more thing I want to talk to you about, probably I will cover that demo in next few minutes. Let's talk about how do you create those things. So first of all, you just click on to this new icon, which is over here. I think I didn't tell you. If I click on to new, it will give me this option to create database, services and all. Here in my option, I will create a new virtual machine or a website, and I will say create it from a gallery. So the way it gives me an option to create all the VMs which are available over here. So I think if you are not able to see at the back, These are the options that I get when I want to create a new VM. So I do have a BizSpark, so SQL, that's kind of a template. So if you see the second VM, which is a SQL template, that machine has got a Windows Server and a SQL already configured. It's as simple as that. If you just scroll down, I have this particular VM which is created by me yesterday. It's kind of a template. This Linux VM already has some sort of Tomcat or Apache configured for me, and it's my custom EHD file. So when I want to create a new VM from that, it takes like a couple of minutes to spin the VM for me on the fly with the same configuration, IP address, host name for my premise. Let me give you one example that how I can connect to my VM. So same way I have created this particular VM which is a Ubuntu VM, and if I click onto this particular flavor, I have configured an endpoint with a TCP IP port number 8080. The reason I have done that is when I want to, let's say, create a new virtual machine, the way it works is very simple. I will come over here, choose from the VM from a gallery. Let's say choose OpenSUSE. I'll just click next. Here I will give it a name as SUSE, give some password as demo and demo. So I think password should be long enough. Hope I'm okay. Here I can choose the various cores based upon my customer requirement. I will say next, and eventually then it will ask me for a DNS name. This is something which is available online, which is used over an internet. So I will say DPE SUSE, let me give it a try. And if I want to keep it in which data center, in Southeast Asia or US data center, I have an option to choose that. So I'll click on next. Alright, it says that it's used. I will use different one, and already in use. So let me try 3. Wow, that's brilliant. Surprising. SUSE VM03. The DNS name is already specified. That's weird. So let me say connect to an existing VM, and I will use the existing set of VM, and that's about it, and I am done. Obviously it will give me an error because I don't have that many cores. This is my sample account with the 2 VM limit as such, which I have already consumed, so it won't create that, but this is how I will create a VM. So how do I connect to that VM if I want to configure some applications? So I will use this particular tool called as a PuTTY, which is kind of allowing me to do the terminal connectivity to my VM. One is already connected, so I will just connect it to it using ubuntu.cloudapp.net. I will say open, and it will ask me for a username and a password that I have set up in the beginning. So I'll provide as administrator and the password. I'm actually running this in my Windows Azure. This is a full-fledged VM with all the full state and everything preserved. If I restart it, no data is going to go as such. It's going to be there. So I will probably log in as a root. One more try. All right. Should be working, and here is some information, what's happening on my machine and all. What I've done is I have configured the Tomcat over here. So if you see, remember the port that I talked to you about, I have created this particular endpoint. This is how I will connect to my VM. So if I select this option, that is dp-ubuntu.cloudapp.net:8080, it will take me to this particular page. And if I want to, let's say, connect to my management or examples and all these tools, I can effectively just come over here and see that it will be launching the same from that particular VM. So this is how I will create all of my virtual machines. This is how I will manage my admin, running all in Windows Azure with fully supported environment. Now, one more thing I want to show you before I move on to my next part is creating the new website. If I want to create, let's say, a new WordPress or a new CRM website on the fly on Windows Azure, all I need to do is just come over here and quickly create from the gallery. This is where I will choose all the available options, my blogs, my applications, my content management systems over here. Something similar I did some time back over here. And eventually I'll just come over here, give some information that WP demo 01, something like that. Use an existing database, use Asia, I think it's URL already used. I'll give some random URL. I think some issue with this portal it seems. I think I'm not configured something well. Anyways, let me show you one website which I have already created. If I just click over here, it will show me the website like this, which I can create with one click. And this is how it would look like. With a few clicks, it will configure all on its own. And subsequently, I can even use this same website to manage it from my web metrics tool. So if I just come over here and click on this particular option that says web metrics, what it will do eventually is it will open up the same website right away from my local installed web metrics. So just search for the web metrics. This is how I will even modify the website which I have hosted over there with one click. And alright, it's taking time. I'll just close this. Yeah. So here, if I want to, let's say, open up a website, the same website that I've talked to you about, I will say remote site, import a publish profile, go back to my Azure demo. Let me try this and save. What it will do eventually is that it is going to connect to the same website that I have running in my Windows Azure, and without needing to remember any of the credentials and all, it will connect me to this website and I'm good to go. So this is the same website that you just saw that I'm running in Windows Azure environment with the same option. So here I can make some changes to my WordPress environment which is running over there and re-upload the same website with one click over here. So that's the beauty of how I can do that effectively with all the options that I have. Talk about the VM hosting. Like I said, we have a lot of features introduced with Windows Server 2012 with a lot of enhancements in terms of the virtualization stack. Some feedback that received from the provider over the time is something like this. We heard that, let me use my existing customer facing UI. I don't want to use the UI that you provided to me, the browser or kind of an experience that you want to give. I want to give my own custom experience to my end user. I want some APIs to manage my IaaS offering. If you are providing me some sort of way to keep all the virtual machines running, how can I manage the same VMs using the APIs in my customized portal, right? That's the expectation from the partner, because they say that if I want to host, I want some control on the website. Multi-tenancy is one requirement, and kind of a network related enhancements. How can I have multiple customers with kind of a similar IP range and all within the same box? That's something that we worked on. So we have something called as a service provider. We have called as the SPF, Service Provider Foundation Pack, which is available with Windows Server 2012 and System Center. The idea is very simple. I have these particular fabric stamps. This fabric stamps is nothing but my physical infrastructure, my compute storage and networking. On top of it, I am going to provide this particular pack, which is my SPF pack. Now, what this pack basically contains the RESTful APIs using OAuth and all to connect to my infrastructure in the backend, that is create VM, delete VM and stuff like that. So instead of you using a standardized portal by Microsoft, you will build your custom portal and connect to these services using these underneath APIs. So I may be having a customer 1 with its tenant 1 and customer 2 with his tenant and all this configuration, and effectively I can use either HTTP or HTTPS to connect to that particular engine to generate the automation and all. That is how the model is. And this complete stack is based upon Windows Server 2012 as the virtualized platform, and I do have System Center 2012 as the data center management software. It has got an option to manage all of my VMs using Virtual Machine Manager, which is a tool to manage all the VMs. I have some cloud services. I can manage my front end, that is my on-premise virtual machines, and on my public cloud, which is Windows Azure, from the same environment. Then I have some VM networks, something called as network virtualization, that is something introduced. And subsequently, I have monitoring tools as well built into it, and even the application monitoring and the remediation. So if you have a .NET application, if you have a Java application that you want to run in the same environment, we allow you to manage and monitor those applications and even find the root cause that why the web application or the Java application or the PHP application is not performing effectively in your environment. And something called as an orchestrator, which does the automation on the fly. Database, again, like I said, you have option for customers with on the fly, on-premise or in the cloud that you can choose from. And subsequently, we have some sort of a desktop hosting option available for the VDI customers, where they can put their virtual machines in the portal. So with this, let me switch to a part where I want to talk to you about some demonstration on how does the experience would look like. So this is my Windows Server 2012 machine. So I'll just come to the same VM that I was talking to you about. This is my Windows Server 2012, and this is where I'm running few virtual machines over here. This is a product which we recommend to the data center people to use it in their environment. And I have this particular portal called as App Controller. This is the portal that we offer to the customers. But using that service provider foundation, you can completely replace this portal and you build your own portal and use those API to fetch the same information, but only the information that you want to share with the customers. Now one thing I want to share with you is that here if you see I have a different cloud environments that I can see. I do have a couple of cloud environments configured over here. Something similar that you can do for your customers as well. Now the beauty of this tool is that you can not only manage your on-premise, that means in your corporate network, virtual machines or the data center products and all. We also allow you to manage the public cloud, that is Windows Azure, from the same environment. So if you see, I have this subscription called as a Windows Azure, and if you see, I will have those exact same VM that I was talking to you about in an Azure portal, right? The Ubuntu VM and the Windows Server 2012 VM, I'm managing all of them from my local portal using my corporate portal provided by System Center. I don't need to go to the Azure and all, but from here I can probably download all these particular VMs or upload them. All the way can be done with this particular tool. So that's the idea behind this. And if I just come to the connections, I have an option to connect to something called as SPF. So if you have built this particular service provider foundation, the idea is very simple. You as a hoster will build a separate infrastructure for your customers, and then you will allow them to manage it from a single console. Here what I will do is not only I can manage my private cloud for my customers or for my Windows Azure based customers, here I can also add something called as the SPF based cloud. So here I will say that add an external service provider connection. With this I can connect to my infrastructure which is probably hosted by some of the hosters somewhere in the other data center as well. So that's the beauty of it, and they will be still part of your same corporate network with the same integration with your environment. That's the idea behind this integration. One more feature I want to probably talk to you about is something called as this particular feature, which is managing this particular environment. So I have some more VMs running in this local machine which is using same data center and all. Now of course typically when we say the beauty of cloud is when you have an automation, right? And for this we use something called as a PowerShell, which is a command line script. So let me launch one demo wherein what can I do with this. So I have this PowerShell command which will allow me to get almost all the commands that I can use to create a new virtual machine. If I just show you this option, just take a look at it. I have two VMs, Web1 and Web2. I can get, how many commands do I have? I have about 164 commands available over here. Something like in a PowerShell we have an option like verb-noun type of a commandlets to perform various tasks. Let's take an example. There are certain commands to create VM, get VM, set VM and all. So if I type any command I can manage all the VMs and you can script it. That's the beauty for the hosters when they want to build a data center. Let's say if I want to find some option, I want to show you one relevant command which is this. So if I want to create a new virtual machine, I will type this command called as new-name VM. Name is new. So it will create a new VM on the fly over here without needing to have access to my full scale environment. If I type the get-VM, it will show me all the VMs that I am running on my server without needing to have any management tool or management console. Subsequently, if I want to create a new VHD file, I can effectively do that. I can create even a 4 TB disk on the fly, dynamically expanding. This command start-VM, what I'm doing is with one command, I'm starting two VMs at the same time using the same wildcard characters that we use in any command, star parameter. What it will do is it will start the VMs starting with web. Effectively, I can create network as well. Now, this is an interesting thing. If I want to create a 10 virtual machines on the fly with one command, I will use something called as job as a parameter. And if I run this, if you see on the fly, it creates 10 VMs real time in your environment, in a data center. Interesting? Effectively, if I want to, let's say, configure the same networking to them, I can do that effectively with the same PowerShell command. And if I want to rename them, I will do them right away the same way with just PowerShell command. No GUI, no actual additional things required. And lastly, let's say if I'm done with all these modifications, all these settings and all, effectively I can remove them with one click and I can delete this infrastructure. So the idea is very simple, that I can do all of the things with the help of Windows Server and the PowerShell based scripting to manage any component in my server, in my data center, without needing to use any of the graphical management tool. I can just do that with the scripts to do the high class automation in my environment. So some of the customer challenges I will just quickly pass on to this, that what they have. They're looking for the cloud options where they can choose an on-premise or in the cloud on their own. Deploy the hosted desktops in the cloud, something what we call as the VDI, where you as a hoster can provide a Windows Server based solution, or it could be even scalable to your Citrix and all. So if you want to work with Citrix as well, we have an option where you can work with them in terms of the VDI based offerings. Same for your data and subsequently all of the infrastructure that you can think of. So Windows Server offers this solution for you. For database we have a SQL, all the features in terms of the scalability or disaster recovery or a fault tolerance are available from these particular products that you can use in your environment. And effectively all of the remote access options, websites option that I've just covered you in the demo. So effectively what we will just quickly see is some of the things that my end users would look forward is website as a service. That's what they want. They can effectively create a websites, and that's what you as a hoster can provide these solutions to them by using the tools that I've just demonstrated with any platform they are looking forward for. If they want to run their applications on-premise, that is in their corporate network or in the hosted environment, you can probably run a Windows Server based environment and allow them to run the applications in your premise for them. This is something, an option for you. We have a SQL, like I said, you can have a hybrid, some data on-premise, some data on the cloud based upon the regulations, requirements and the specifications. And you can also have the highly available workload with the clustering and all available in Windows Server 2012 and with the help of a System Center 2012. And effectively use all of that to run the virtual infrastructure in the data center as well. The last thing I wanted to cover this part, which is the running this enterprise workload like Exchange, Link and a SharePoint that you can also effectively host and offer it to the customers so that they can use that, and you can just partner with Microsoft on the same. I will show you the quick demo of that. I still have a couple of minutes how it looks like. So when I go to this particular portal called as portal.microsoft.com, I have configured this particular portal to show you how it looks like. So this is my main portal where I am actually logged in as an administrator on this machine, and with one click I can create an Exchange account, a Link account or a SharePoint account of SharePoint access to any of my end users on the fly. This is something that you can offer to your customer as well. So let's say if I want to create a new user, I'll just come over here and say add a new user, which is pretty much simple work over here. And here I'll give it a name as, give my name again, Aviraj Ajgekar. Display name is what I want. Alias is Aviraj VM 365 time being. I can configure the department and all over here. This particular domain could be completely of your choice. It's not required to be like this. You can customize your domain as well. I will say tech, choose a city, and eventually if I just scroll down I will say next. Do I want to make this user an administrator? I can do that as well. So I have an option to make any user administrator of my organization. I can do that as well. Then I will choose a location and say next. Alright. What it says, you must enter an email address, so I will just enter my corporate email address. I will say next, and here it will ask me what all things do you want to give to the user. Do you want to give him a link for chatting? Do you want to give him a SharePoint access? Do you want to give him an Exchange account? With one click you can choose what all do you want to give him, or Office or web apps, whatever that you want to give. I'll just give that on the fly and my user is ready, and once done he can effectively use the link, and this could be, it will ask me do you want to send a password and all, or I can just take it real time over here and click on create, and it will effectively create a username and a password quickly for me for this particular user, and I can just get going. So this is how I will build the infrastructure for my users effectively without needing to deploy anything, without going to the IT and all. Everything on the web, that's how you deploy and provide services to your end users on the fly. So some resources are available. I will share the slide deck with you so that you can visit these links over here. We have Microsoft Partner Network, and this is a very essential link, microsoft.com/hosting. This is a link where you will find all this information that I have discussed so far in terms of an infrastructure, application, public cloud and private cloud. And if you have any questions, queries, just reach out to me. So some of the action call, you can just plan it up, launch and just get going. For any questions, queries, then you can just come back to us. We are ready to help. We are happy to help anytime for any partner, any customer, any of the hoster have any question. Some more resources, again the slide is with you all. So once again, thank you very much for your time. I hope it was worth of your time and some great valuable insights from Microsoft to you on this thing.